So hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this presentation. As you can see here, today will be a joint session between myself, Daniel, and Sergio Vera. Hopefully, being Friday today and after a hard working week, you're ready to have some nice information. So I think you're in the right place. Today's agenda, as you can see here, thank you, Sergio. It will be of three parts. First, I'll do a small introduction to UCT, talk about what were the reasons behind starting to develop UCT and what is UCT. Then Sergio will continue with talking about the technical side, technical aspects of UCT. And then as a final note, we'll be talking about a bit of the documentation for UCT, community, and a bit more. Then after that, finally, we'll have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them. So before we start talking about UCT, let us first introduce ourselves. My name is Daniel del Carmen. I'm a technical writer with Adobe. I've been with Adobe for over 3 years now, and working in different projects that require documentation. As well, you have here my colleague, Sergio Vera. He is a software engineer in Adobe as well, in the background office. He's been with Adobe for 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. Previously, he worked in Magento, the management system. And since the beginnings of 2020, he's working with Iberian Links team based in Barcelona and working on UCT. All right, so first off, today we would like to start talking about a long-standing issue with Adobe Commerce, which is version updating. Because let's face it, sometimes updating Adobe Commerce is way harder than it should. In an ideal world, updating should be a straightforward process. Just apply the update and everything should work as expected as it was before, or even better. But reality is funny sometimes, because instead this is far from true. Problems arise, some are inherent to the development process, code evolves and changes, things that used to work in the past, they don't work anymore, or you have some bugs that happen. Can be different iterations, even the same code itself evolves and is not working, or new bugs that, as I said, are introduced. And although Adobe Commerce has advanced leap and bounds in supporting customizations, there is also a long-standing tradition in the Magento ecosystem of customizing the Adobe Commerce code base itself to add new functionalities or modify existing ones based on customer requirements, and that not always adjust to Adobe's recommendations. As you know, these customizations are very likely to break the instance after upgrading it to a newer version. So, UCT is a project we have been working on for the better part of 2020 and this year as well, 2021. In a nutshell, as you can see here, UCT is a command line tool intended to provide a look on how difficult it would be to update to a specific Adobe Commerce version from the current one that you're using. So to do that, UCT basically will scan the source code of that instance and look for Adobe Commerce API misuses, incompatibilities, or different problems that you can find. And at the end, UCT will provide a report that will include a list of found critical issues, errors, and warnings that should be fixed in order to be able to upgrade to this desired, to the target Adobe Commerce version. The difficulty of the upgrade process, directly translates to customer feelings. As you can see here as an example, Adobe Commerce recently obtained a Net Promoter Score of 27, which is a metric that is used in customer experience programs, with 23% of those customers saying that the total cost of ownership, or as you can see here, the TCO, is too high. In a survey that we released in April 2020 to partners, sales, and customer success managers, said that a top factor in losing sales was that total cost of ownership, actually. And as you can see here also, 83% of the Adobe Commerce hacked sites are running an outdated version. So addressing those unpatched or those not updated sites critically important. For example, take into account that in 2017, e-commerce fraud rose nearly 2 times, which is about more than 30% on a year-over-year basis, which is a lot. So in summary, we should and we can do better. In Adobe, we are aware of this problem. And several initiatives, several things have started to try to fix that. So there's one way to approach this scenario, as we mentioned, which is make the update process easier. The idea would be to provide a clear view of what will cause problems and how to fix them before the user crashes into a wall, so therefore holding up the updates. And this is where the UCT comes into play. And now I'll let Sergio talk about the technical aspects of UCT. All yours.
Thank you, Danny. For this first release, we chose to focus on PHP issues, as Adobe Commerce itself is written in PHP, and these are the ones that we are most familiar with. Of course, in future UCT versions, we intend to check for other issues that may happen. Right now, UCT will look for the following cases that you see in the slide, that are the usage of Adobe Commerce classes and interfaces which do not belong to the Adobe Commerce API and then are not intended for public use, the usage of Adobe Commerce classes or interfaces that used to exist but are no longer present in the Adobe Commerce API version we want to use, the usage of Adobe Commerce classes, interfaces, methods, constants, etc., which are deprecated and will be replaced or removed in future versions, changes in Adobe Commerce core files, and lastly, changes in GraphQL schema. So let's see the tool in action. The tool can be downloaded using Composer Require. Just let me try, because I think this video is not now, it's playing. Or require or create project commands. And the package name is Magento Upgrade Compatibility Tool. It can be retrieved from repo magento.com. Composer identification keys with Adobe Commerce Access are required to download the package. To use the command line interface, it may be necessary to grant execute permissions to Bing UCT. The simplest example of the tool functionality is running the upgrade check command. It requires a path to the customized project, and we can also specify a version we would like to analyze against, in this case, 2.4.3. During the execution, the tool is going to find all references to the core modules and check if that code is still present in the new versions, it is deprecated, and whether it is part of our API. As a result, all the issues of the customization will be displayed. The report errors can be of 3 levels: critical, error, and warning. The issue is considered critical if the customization requires adjustments to work on the new Adobe Commerce version. Error level indicates references that can result into changes of behavior and may even lead into exceptions into the customization functionality. Warnings are indicated risk areas and deprecated API references that may not affect the functionality currently, but are a potential risk for future updates. Each error has a code that can be used to find possible fix suggestions in our documentation. At the end of the report, we are displaying a summary, including a complexity score that can be potentially be used for estimation of backend work required for the upgrade, or a comparison between projects. In addition to display the report in the command line, it is exported to a file in JSON format that can be used for integration in other tools or scripts within the infrastructure. The upgrade check command provides a lot of options that can be used to adjust its algorithm, analysis level, and output format to match everybody's needs. This command is aggregating all UCT's features. There are options for GraphQL schema comparison and core modification checks. I will talk more about these functionalities later. Another useful options are output, to specify the path you would like the JSON result to be saved to, minimum issue level, will filter the list of issues to help you focus on the highest severity problems first, and ignore current version compatibility issues, the longest and probably most complex option. If this option is used with the upgrade check command, all the compatibility issues related with the current Adobe Commerce version of the project will be ignored, and only issues introduced by the newer versions will be displayed. Let's talk about the abstract syntax tree now. Broadly speaking, UCT is a static code analyzer, or in other words, a program that analyzes software without actually executing it. This analysis, in turn, is actually made possible thanks to the generation of abstract syntax trees, also known by its acronym AST, which is way easier to pronounce, by the way. Probably many of you are familiar with AST. If not, fear not. Let's check its definition, which I have shamelessly taken from Wikipedia. An AST is a tree representation of the abstract syntactic structure of source code written in a programming language. Each node of the tree denotes a construct occurring in the source code. I think this is better shown with a small example. In this slide, we can see an AST generated from an implementation of the Euclidean algorithm. This algorithm is used to find the greatest common divisor of two integers, or in other words, the largest number that divides them both without a remainder. So the pseudocode that you can see at the left side of the slide translates to the tree at the right side. This way of representing the code has several advantages when using it as a way to analyze how an application works internally. An AST can be edited and enhanced with information such as properties and annotation for every element it contains. An AST does not include inessential punctuation and delimiters like braces, semicolons, and parentheses. And finally, it usually contains extra information about the program, like the position of each element in the source code, allowing to print useful error messages. Generating and parsing ASTs is the base of two libraries developed by my colleague Volodymyr Kulisky. Kudos to him for his great work, by the way, which in turn are used by UCT to perform its analysis of Adobe Commerce instances. These two libraries are called Adobe Commerce API Index and Embrace. The Adobe Commerce API Index is, as its name implies, a kind of dictionary containing all classes and interfaces which belongs to the Adobe Commerce API, and therefore are intended for public use by third parties when developing its own plugins or modules for Adobe Commerce. UCT uses this index to check if an Adobe Commerce class, method, interface, etc., used by a third party actually belongs to the Adobe Commerce API and is not deprecated. Our initial idea for the API index was to create an online service with all this information, providing a REST or GraphQL API to access this information remotely. This approach had several drawbacks, anyway, such as the need to maintain a new online service by ourselves with all that involves. Adobe Commerce API doesn't change that often, as it only needs to be updated with each Adobe Commerce release, making having this information offline a feasible option. In the end, it was decided to use file archives as the way to store this information, with the advantage of not having to rely on an online service to fetch this information every time we needed it, nor have to devise a caching system. All of this is available from the start with the usage of a composite repository plus file archives. Let me remind you that a file archive is just a standard PHP way of distributing libraries as a single file, similar to Java's jar files. So when we install UCT, the index information is downloaded from a Composer repository and it's available offline in the form of a file archive with data about each Adobe Commerce version that UCT supports. Starting from Adobe Commerce, I think it's 2.0, it's the first one, up to the latest Adobe Commerce release. For each new Adobe Commerce version, a new index containing API changes will be created. NRay, on the other hand, is a set of tools to explore Adobe Commerce extensions based on static code analysis. Actually, the data that the Adobe Commerce API index used to create its entries is gathered by NRay. UCT uses another feature of NRay that allows to scan third-party modules installed in an Adobe Commerce instance, looking for usages of Adobe Commerce classes, interfaces, methods, etc., and returning information such as in which file and line that Adobe Commerce element is used, the kind of element, its fully qualified name, and other kind of data. Combining the information provided by both the Adobe Commerce API index and NRay, UCT generates a report with all found issues in the instance, as we saw in the live example that I showed you before. UCT is also designed to be easily integrated with other tools, as its output can adjust to any format that you can think of, like JSON, XML, CSV, etc., by just implementing a simple interface. Both Magento API Index and NRay use internally the PHP parser library written by Nikita Popov. The use of PHP parser written itself in PHP may seem like a little bit surprising, because PHP is not a language that is like really well suited for this kind of fast parsing. But take into account, however, that we need not only to parse just code, but a great chunk of the required information comes in the form of PHP docs, and such like API or the deprecated ones. In this regard, the PHP parser support for them is best in class. Also, most of the target audience of UCT is composed by PHP developers, of course. And given the results we have got so far, performance is good enough at the moment. Now, Danny, back to you.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you for this presentation about UCT. So as you can see here, I want to show you that as well, alongside the UCT development tool and its GA release, we have documentation in its live too as well in DevDocs. As usual for DevDocs, you can contribute, you can open a pull request. So most likely, if you open a pull request, you'll find me there. As you can see in the video, maybe Sergio, you can push play.
Yeah, there's a problem with the autoplay.
Yeah, it doesn't automatically stop. So as you can see here in the video, and if you go to the DevDoc site, you can check. We created documentation trying to cover all the different areas of UCT that you might need. For example, prerequisites, requirements for the tool, even talking about memory limitations for the tool, how to install, and who is the tool intended for, and who can use it. As well, you can have a section about how to run the tool, basically, with all the different commands and options that Sergio was showing earlier. As well, we come back here later because there's a small update in the documentation in the last release with PHP Storm plugin docs that include as well a graphic user interface for a run configuration of the upgrade compatibility tool. As well, you have different other areas, as you can see here, like information for developers, an error reference page where you see a list with all the critical issues, errors, and warnings that Sergio was talking about earlier. And I'm guessing, as you can see here now, in the end of this page, it's going to point you to a small section in the PHP Storm plugin documentation, which was, as I said, created alongside UCT, and talks about run configuration for the tool. using the PHP Storm plugin, which is basically using a GUI, graphic user interface. And just as a final note, remember that there's a dev blog post as well that was published alongside the release of the tool. You have a survey as well there, in case you want to provide us with feedback or any information that you saw in the tool that might be interesting for us. And just to mention that we have confidence that the community will start using the tool and see the advantages of having standards when upgrading their Adobe Commerce instances. And this is it for now. Thank you for your attention. We sincerely hope that you like what you saw. Now I think it's time for Q&A.
Come on, guys. So you have questions for us.
I'm not sure if Vlad is already back on the call. I thought he mentioned he was going to be back for the Q&A. But we have oh, look at that. Sergio, we have a question from, any help for this tool to become part of open source?
Unfortunately, there is no plans right now for releasing this tool for the open source, but that may change in the future. I don't know. This is not my call actually, but let's see. Maybe.
Okay, while we wait for other questions, I'm sorry for joining a bit late. My browser moved slower than I would have liked. What I wanted to ask is, what would you recommend some developers just hearing about this tool? How should they start using this tool? You mentioned the PHP Storm plugin. You mentioned possible integrations with GitHub. What would you recommend as a starting point?
Well, actually, this tool has been devised like a command line tool. So I guess the best way of like starting with it is just downloading it, play with it, just taking a look at the help. It's really like very useful what we put there in terms that it doesn't have like many commands right now, and they are pretty self-explanatory. So just start playing with it. If you feel that something can be improved, that of course can be, just connect with us through our Slack channel or sending us an email. We are like really happy to receive feedback from this tool and see that people is actually using it, and it is useful for them.
Yeah, actually, you can try to follow the documentation as well when installing it. And if nothing's working, then just write to me, and then we'll review the documentation of the tool itself.
You can try the tool and then read the documentation and then try the tool again.
Let's try to read the documentation first, and then.
You know that nobody reads the documentation.
Oh, come on.
Okay. I mean, we have another question from John Baxendale. He's asking whether partners can extend the tool to account for their own modifications or own needs. And what I would like to add to that, is there any plan for support your community contributions to that tool?
Well, it's not actually open to the community just yet, because as I said before, it's not really that I thought to be used with open source editions of Magento. That is something that may change in the future. About the possibility of extending the tool in the future by third party. Yes, I think this is something that is actually in the roadmap. There are no definite plans for this yet, but this is actually a cool idea, and it is something that we would like to explore in the future. There is like a ton actually of features that we would like to add to the tool, because there are like many things that can go wrong when upgrading Magento versions. So this kind of feedback is really useful for us, actually. So thank you for this question.
Another question about the future is whether in the future this tool will also cover analysis for the database.
That's a very good question. I'm not really sure. I don't think there are plans for this, but yeah, for sure, this will be one of the key areas that we can actually look into expand the tool. We were also thinking on extending the tool in the way of doing the same that we do with PHP with JavaScript. But it's actually a huge undertaking because it's a completely different code base that is not that known for us. So these are like part of our plans in the future. But definitely the database one is one area that I would like to explore also.
Okay, that's great. Danny, Sergio, thank you very much for this presentation and introduction of UCT. It's been a pleasure to have you and looking forward to having you again. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye.